Hi everyone, this is Surush, and in this video I'd like to talk about the AnimateDiff paper that using this method you can transform the text-to-image diffusion models into something that supports the motion patterns. So using this method you can have an input image and animate it. And yeah, that's all about it. I hope you enjoy it, and let's just see how it works. When you look at the image datasets that diffusion models are trained on, they are typically high-quality datasets like this layout aesthetics as an example. While the video datasets, on the other hand, have issues like compression artifacts when you look at a particular frame, or some may contain watermark or motion blur due to fast movements of objects. And this causes a domain gap between image and video datasets in terms of quality that can be problematic, because if we use these datasets as input to the pre-trained text-to-image diffusion model, it becomes challenging for the model because you can kind of consider these high quality versus low quality input as two different distribution of images or frames, and it is unexpectable for the model if it receives an input that comes from a different distribution. Even though it's not a huge gap and expected to learn something on top of it, in our case motion. So as a solution, you might say we can fine-tune this model on these video datasets that is doable, but has the risk of forgetting the good high-quality image prior that the model currently has, and after learning the motion, we should expect a low-quality output with less diversity, as we don't want to have much data as the billions of images that we initially used for training. And to alleviate the negative effects, they add these tiny red blocks at each block of the unit that this block shows, and the number of parameters is significantly less than what the unit has in a stable diffusion. And to see what these tiny blocks are, when we zoom in and explore each block separately, at first of each blocks in pre-trained image layers, we have a ResNet block as a couple convolution features that we keep it frozen. And then we have the self-attention and cross-attention layers that we again keep the weights for query, key, value, and projection frozen, and add an adapter layer to modify these query, key, values, and projection output to align and adapt itself with the domain of video frames. And now you might wonder, okay, we still have the issue that we might have low quality output since these adapters after fine-tuning are adapting the domain of videos, and those are trained with datasets that are having low quality. But I haven't told you about the detail yet, and when we look at each projection, like query projection as an example, this adapter layer is just an addition term. But when we look at the detail, they use LoRa to adapt it. Using LoRa helps us to tune only a few weights, because let's say if WQ is a 1000 by 1000 dimensional matrix, then we have to tune 1 million parameters, but by splitting it into A and B, each 1000 by 100 dimensional matrix as an example, then we have 100,000 parameters each and 2000 parameters in total. That is like 5 times less parameters, while the output of AB transpose has the same shape as WQ. And the other trick that helps us with our problem is this alpha hyperparameter. We can set it to be 1 throughout the training so that our diffusion model adapts itself with the low quality video domain, and once we learn how to transfer the motion, which I talk next, then at inference time we just set this alpha to be 0 to remove the negative effect of video domain and transfer the motion while we're still keeping the high quality image prior that our denoiser unit initially had. And in an ablation study, they have also showed the effect of reducing the alpha at inference time on the visual quality. Here you see that the first frame of generated result, and as we decrease the alpha hyperparameter and make it closer to 0, the quality increases and returns back to the good image prior that the denoiser initially had. Once we adapt the domain to the video, the second stage of training begins, which is learning the motion priors. And to do that, you see that in addition to those tiny red blocks we trained for adapting the domains, we now have these blue blocks called motion modules, and at this stage of training, we only train these blue modules and keep everything else frozen, including those red blocks that we initially tuned. And to see what is inside the motion module, initially we have input projection, which like all the transformers, it is a linear layer and changes the number of channels if needed. But note that our weights are defined with an expectation to receive images as 4D tensor, batch size, channel size, height, and width. But now what we have is a 5D tensor that has frame size as well. For the previous stage, it wasn't problematic because we sampled some frames randomly and trained the adapter weights. But here we have to turn this into a 4D tensor that the model expects. Before this temporal transformer, the blue block that we want to train, we have the original blocks of unit that expects image as input. And we can simply do it by merging the frame with batch and consider different frames as different batch of data, and let it use the strong image prior to process each frame separately. And then for the motions, we have this temporal transformer that we defined, and before this projection, we reshape it so that the height and the width is merged with the batch. And what we have is like f tokens, that is the number of frames as the number of tokens, and each token is c-dimensional vector that are passed to the input projection layer. Next, we have the main part, that is self-attention, that is repeated n times inside the temporal transformer block. Before the self-attention, we need positional encoding to be added and preserve the orders of the video frames. They use sinusoidal embedding that was proposed in the Attention is All You Need paper, and then they say we have f tokens, each c-dimensionals, and the batch size is b times h times w. For applying the attention to have some information passing between the frames and model the motion, we can use the usual attention formula. That's the only thing that this block does. And the final thing is the output projection layer that we typically have in transformers, but as a trick, they are inspired by ControlNet and they zero initialize it and have a skip connection so that initially in the training, this temporal transformer block acts as identity mapping and have a stable training procedure. And optionally, we can have this stage at the end for adapting new motion patterns. Let's say you download the model weights from the AnimateDiff and you notice they don't support a specific motion pattern like you zoom in that you might need it. To make that happen, you just need to have a small dataset like between 20 and 50 videos, and similar to the adapter I explained in the first stage, you can define an adapter for temporal transformer denoted by small green blocks in figure and tune them to support this new motion pattern. And since you don't have big datasets and optimize a few ways with LoRa, this stage should take around 1 to 2 hours for you to make that happen. And yeah, that's all the detail you should know about this AnimateDiff paper, and I hope you enjoy it. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and until the next video, goodbye.